When my sister told everyone at dinner that I'd probably be the only bridesmaid to walk down the aisle alone because no one would ever put up with me, I smiled, swallowed my pride, and pretended it didn't sting. What she didn't know was that I had a plan of my own. And by the time her wedding day came, I was no longer the sister she could laugh at. I was the one who stole the show. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Claire, I'm 32 years old, and if you asked anyone in my family, they'd tell you I've always been the quiet one. I'm not flashy, I don't brag, I don't show off. But my older sister, Emily, she's the exact opposite. She's the center of attention everywhere she goes and she loves it. Growing up, she was the star child. Straight A's, cheerleader, prom queen. My parents doted on her, my relatives adored her, and she made sure everyone knew she was the favorite. And me? I was the background character in my own family. I didn't mind it when we were kids. Emily was older and it felt natural for her to shine. But as we grew up, her teasing turned cruel. She had this way of turning every weakness of mine into a punchline. My shyness, my weight in high school, the time I didn't get into my first choice college. Nothing was off limits. And when it came to my love life or lack thereof, she never missed a chance to humiliate me. Claire, you're too picky, she'd say with a smirk. Or maybe you're just boring. No wonder guys don't stick around. She'd say it at family gatherings, in front of our cousins, sometimes even in front of strangers. And everyone would laugh because, well, it was Emily. She was just joking. I always told myself to let it slide. That's just who she was. But deep down, it chipped away at me. By the time Emily got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Mark, the comments became worse. She'd call me to update me on her wedding plans, but really it was just to poke fun. You know, Claire, maybe we'll put you with the kids at the reception since you won't have a date, she joked once. Another time, she asked, do you want me to find you a plus one? Maybe one of Mark's cousins will pity dance with you. I'd laugh weakly, trying to brush it off. But when I hung up the phone, I'd cry into my pillow. The final straw came at our parents' house one Sunday dinner, a few months before the wedding. Emily was in full wedding bride mode, bragging about the dress, the venue, the guest list. Everyone listened, nodding, soaking up her glow. Then, with a sly smile, she turned to me. Oh, and by the way, Claire, she said, her voice loud enough for the whole table, you'll be walking alone down the aisle. But don't worry, I'll make sure they dim the lights so no one notices. The table erupted in laughter. Even my parents chuckled awkwardly. I sat there frozen, the heat rushing to my cheeks, my fork shaking in my hand. I forced a laugh, the kind that sounds like it might crack in the middle. Good one, Em, I muttered, pushing food around my plate. Inside, I was crumbling. I went home that night and stared at myself in the mirror. 32 years old, single, and still the family's punchline. I'd worked hard for everything. I had a stable job, a cozy apartment, good friends who truly loved me, but in my sister's eyes, none of that mattered. All she saw was that I didn't have a man by my side. For weeks after that dinner, I replayed her words in my head. Walking down the aisle alone, people whispering, laughing behind their hands. My humiliation becoming another story Emily would tell for years. But the more I thought about it, the less I cried. And the more I planned. Because what Emily didn't know was that I wasn't as alone as she thought. I'd been seeing someone quietly for months, Alex. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was kind, supportive, and made me feel like I was the only person in the room. We hadn't gone public with our relationship yet, partly because I liked the peace of keeping something just for me. But the idea started forming in my mind, what if I didn't show up to her wedding alone? What if I walked in with Alex by my side, looking every bit the competent, loved woman Emily swore I'd never be? The thought thrilled me. Still, I hesitated. Emily had always been good at twisting things. What if she found a way to humiliate me even more? What if Alex didn't want to deal with her drama? One night, I confessed my fears to him. We were curled up on my couch, a bowl of popcorn between us, the glow of the TV flickering across his face. She makes me feel small, I admitted. Every time she opens her mouth, it's like she's reminding me I'll never measure up. And I'm scared she'll do it again at her wedding in front of everyone. Alex took my hand, squeezing it gently. Claire, he said, his voice steady, you don't need her approval. But if you want to shut her up once and for all, I'll be right there with you. We'll walk in together, and she won't know what hit her. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. From that moment on, I knew what I had to do. I kept quiet, letting Emily continue her little jabs. She mocked me in group chats, dropped hints about how tragic it would look for me to be alone. I let her. I played along, nodded, even laughed sometimes. But inside, I was building strength. Every cruel word she threw at me was another brick in the wall. I was constructing a wall that would hold me steady when the time came to tear her smugness down. The wedding day wasn't here yet, but I was ready. For once, I wasn't the background character in Emily's story. I was writing my own. And Emily? She had no idea what was coming. I thought ignoring Emily's little digs would get easier, but the closer we got to her wedding day, the worse they became. It was like she was feeding off the excitement, finding new ways to turn my existence into her personal joke. She sent me a photo of her bridal party group text one night, all of them joking about how the groomsmen would have to fight to avoid being paired with me. Underneath, Emily had added, "Don't worry, Claire, maybe we'll hire a clown to walk you down the aisle instead." I stared at the screen, my throat tightening, the tears welling before I could stop them. I wanted to clap back, to finally tell her how cruel she was. But then I thought about Alex, his steady hand, his warm voice telling me, "We'll shut her up together." That thought was the anchor that kept me from drowning. I typed back one single emoji, a smiley face, and put my phone away. What Emily didn't realize was that by mocking me louder, she was also setting herself up for a bigger fall. The more people she involved in her jokes, the more witnesses she'd have when the tables turned. Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. Nights were the worst. I'd lay awake in the dark, replaying every cruel word. Too boring, too picky, too single, too invisible. I'd curl into myself, battling the old familiar ache of not being enough. But then Alex would text thinking about you, or call just to ask how my day was, or show up with takeout because he knew I'd had a rough one. Those small, steady gestures stitched the torn edges of my heart back together. Piece by piece, I was remembering that I wasn't some pathetic leftover. I was loved. Deeply. A week before the wedding, Emily called me out of the blue. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. "Claire," she sang, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "So, quick question. Have you decided if you're bringing a date? Or should we just plan for your sad little solo entrance?" I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. She was baiting me, waiting for me to break. I forced my voice to stay calm. "I'll be there. Don't worry about me." Emily snickered. "Of course, you'll be there. You wouldn't dare miss my big day. Just don't do anything embarrassing, okay? This is the most important day of my life, and I don't need you stealing attention for the wrong reasons." I wanted to laugh. Me? Steal attention? That was her biggest fear. If only she knew. When the call ended, I sat there shaking, a strange mixture of rage and resolve burning in my chest. For years, Emily had reduced me to a sidekick in my own story. But at her wedding, I wasn't going to let her control the script. Alex came over later that night. I told him about the call, about how she twisted the knife just one more time. He listened, his eyes steady on mine, and then he said, "Claire, you don't have to prove anything to her. But if you want to, then let's do it. Let's walk in there, side by side, and show her that her words don't define you." I felt a tear roll down my cheek, but this time it wasn't sadness. It was relief, gratitude, power. The plan was simple. I wouldn't announce anything, wouldn't post anything, wouldn't even hint that I wasn't coming alone. I'd show up quietly, gracefully, with Alex by my side, and let Emily's jaw hit the floor when she realized her favorite punchline had just turned into the headline. The week leading up to the wedding, I kept my routine normal. I attended the bridal fittings, listened to Emily gush about the flower arrangements, endured her subtle digs about standing out for all the wrong reasons. I smiled, nodded, played along. Inside, though, I was rehearsing the moment. The walk into the reception hall, Alex's hand in mine, the eyes turning, the whispers starting. Emily's expression curdling from smugness to shock. The night before the wedding, Alex took me out to dinner. He'd insisted I needed a confidence boost before the big day. Over candlelight, he reached across the table, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "You know," he said softly, "you don't need me on your arm to be incredible, but I'm honored to stand next to you tomorrow. And I can't wait to see the look on your sister's face." I laughed for real that time, the kind of laugh that bubbled up from deep inside, the kind I hadn't let myself feel in years. When I got home, I stood in front of my mirror again. But this time, I didn't see the broken girl replaying her sister's insults. I saw someone stronger, steadier, and ready. On the morning of the wedding, I slipped into my bridesmaid dress, smoothed my hair, and took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't dreading walking into a family event. I was excited. Not because I wanted revenge in the cruel sense, but because I wanted to reclaim my dignity, the dignity Emily had stolen from me piece by piece. I wasn't just going to walk into that church. I was going to walk into a new chapter of my life. And Emily? She had no idea her reign as the queen of mockery was about to end. The church bells chimed in the distance as I stood at the entrance, my heart pounding in rhythm with the sound. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn day where the leaves looked like fire in the sunlight. Guests were filing inside, their laughter mixing with the hum of conversation, the rustle of dresses, the click of polished shoes on the steps. Beside me, Alex squeezed my hand. His touch grounded me, a reminder that I wasn't here to prove Emily wrong, I was here to prove myself right. "Ready?" he whispered. I nodded, even though my knees were trembling, more than ever. When we walked inside together, the shift was immediate. Heads turned, eyes widened, whispers rippled like waves through the crowd. For once, I wasn't the afterthought, the shadow, the sister trailing behind. People noticed me. But the real moment came when Emily spotted us. She was across the room, radiant in her gown, basking in the attention of her bridesmaids. When her gaze landed on Alex's hand wrapped around mine, her smile faltered. For a split second her carefully composed face cracked. She recovered quickly, of course Emily always did, but I saw it. The flicker of panic, the twist of jealousy, the realization that her little sister wasn't walking in alone after all. The ceremony passed in a blur, though I caught Emily throwing me glances more than once, like she couldn't quite wrap her head around what she was seeing. Alex kept me steady, his presence a shield against every dart of insecurity that tried to worm its way back in. But it was the reception where everything truly unfolded. The hall was dazzling, twinkling lights strung across the ceiling, tables lined with white roses, champagne glasses catching the glow of candles. Emily floated from group to group like the star of her own show. She was thriving in the spotlight, until Alex and I stepped onto the dance floor together. I could almost hear the collective intake of breath. My cousin leaned over to another guest and whispered, "Who's that with Claire?" My aunt beamed at me, as if she had been waiting for this moment. Even the DJ did a double take before flashing us a grin. I wasn't just Emily's plain little sister anymore. I was radiant, alive, confident. And Emily couldn't stand it. She tried to interrupt us once, gliding over with her fake smile plastered on. "Claire," she said sweetly, though her eyes were sharp as glass. "Introduce me to your friend." Alex extended his hand politely. "I'm Alex, Claire's partner." The word partner hung in the air like a spark. Emily's lips tightened ever so slightly. "Well," she said after a beat, "I didn't realize you'd be bringing anyone. Funny you didn't mention it earlier." I tilted my head, my own smile calm but cutting. "Some things are better as a surprise." Her jaw flexed. For once, she had no witty comeback. The rest of the evening was a blur of small victories. Guests approached me to compliment Alex, to ask how we'd met, to tell me how happy I looked. Every comment was another crack in the facade Emily had built over the years, the facade where she was the golden one, and I was the invisible sister. But the true turning point came during the speeches. The maid of honor had just finished her toast when Alex stood, glass in hand. My heart leapt. I hadn't known he planned to speak. "I just want to say something," he began, his voice steady and warm. "I haven't known this family as long as most of you, but I have known Claire. And I think it's important everyone here knows how extraordinary she is." The room hushed. My cheeks burned, but I couldn't look away. "Claire is one of the strongest, kindest people I've ever met," Alex continued. "She has faced more than most, and instead of breaking, she's built herself back up. And tonight, I'm honored to stand beside her, not just as her partner, but as someone who sees her worth completely." Gasps, whispers, eyes on me. "And Emily?" Her face was a mask, but her clenched jaw betrayed her. This was my moment, and she couldn't steal it. When the applause came, it was genuine. For once, I wasn't being pitted or overlooked. I was celebrated. Later that night, as the music swelled and guests filled the dance floor, Emily cornered me near the bar. "You really had to make it about you, didn't you?" she hissed, her smile still plastered on for anyone watching. I met her gaze calmly. "No, Emily, it wasn't about me. It was about showing you that your cruelty doesn't define me anymore." She blinked, caught off guard by the steadiness in my voice. I leaned in closer, my words quiet but sharp enough to cut. "You spent years making me the punchline. Tonight, I walked in and rewrote the story. And you know what? I didn't even need to embarrass you. All I had to do was be myself." For the first time in our lives, Emily had no response. She just stared, her mask slipping ever so slightly, before turning and walking away. As the night wound down, Alex and I stepped outside, the cool air washing over us. The sky was clear, the stars bright. I leaned into him, my heart lighter than it had been in years. For once, I didn't feel like Emily's shadow. I felt like my own person, whole, loved, and strong. And the sweetest part of it all? Emily had to watch every second of it. So tell me, have you ever been underestimated, belittled, or pushed aside by family only to rise stronger than ever? Share your story in the comments below. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't loud or cruel, it's simply living your truth so brightly that no one can dim your light again.